it would be AS 17. Then test the application of the method. And last one, perform certain analytical procedures for the segment information. Then after that, we came to a very important standard. The standard itself is an ATF, SA 505, which is on external confirmations, which is a direct written response to the auditor from a third party. One of the most reliable evidence which can be obtained by the auditor. For the auditor to get an external confirmation from the third party, first the auditor has to send to the third party a confirmation request. This confirmation request could be a positive confirmation request or a negative confirmation request, or open or closed. Positive, whether the third party agrees or disagrees. When in both cases they have to reply, it is positive. And negative, only when the third party disagrees, it has to reply. So what are the situations where negative confirmations may be used? Inherent and control risk is low, balances are low, error rate is low, and the reason for auditor to believe that the respondent will disregard these requests is also low. An open confirmation request where the amount is kept blank, and closed confirmation request wherein the amount is mentioned. Then we talked about the external confirmation procedure. And selecting the items for confirmation, designing the confirmation request, communicating the confirmation request to the appropriate third party, obtaining the response, and evaluating the information. Selecting items for confirmation, you selected the items and management refuses to allow the auditor to send a confirmation request. So first you will ask the reasons to the management. Check for the validity and the reasonableness of the reasons given by the management. You may also alter the nature, timing and extent of the other audit procedures and also your audit risk assessment. Then you will perform alternative procedures to obtain the sufficient appropriate audit evidence. And if you are unable to obtain the evidence, or if you think that the reasons given by the management are unreasonable, then you may modify your opinion in accordance with SA 705. One of the common requests, common reason which is given by the management why they refuse to send a confirmation request is that an untimely confirmation request may aggravate the sensitive negotiation between the client and the third party. The untimely confirmation request may aggravate the sensitive negotiation between the client and the third party. Then factors to be considered in designing the confirmation request, FRENA. The form of confirmation request, conditions likely to affect the reliability of the information, the intended respondent, then the prior experience for similar prior periods. Then after that, the nature of information being confirmed and the assertion being addressed. And evaluating the information, the evidence obtained. Right, then evidence provided by other audit procedures, the reliability of the evidence, whether any additional evidence is needed, and also any misstatement revealed from the response received. Then after that, we came to SA 510, initial audit engagements, opening balances, where either the last year was not audited or it was audited by a predecessor auditor. Procedure number 1, auditor, you need to check whether closing balances of the preceding period, have they been correctly brought forward to the current period. Procedure number 3, to check whether accounting policies have been consistently applied. And procedure number 2, to check whether there are any misstatement in the opening balances. That is divided under 2 possibilities. Prior period was audited, prior period not audited. Prior period audited, place reliance on the work of the predecessor auditor unless there is an indication of misstatement. Obtain the audit report of the predecessor auditor and again check the consistent application of the accounting policies. Prior period unaudited. Now you need to obtain the evidence for the opening balances, and for that the connected records may be examined. Right, then after that we came to SAS. Then we said if you are unable to obtain evidence regarding opening balances, qualified or disclaimer. And what if there is a material misstatement in the opening balances, qualified or adverse. Right. Then we came to SA 520, which is on analytical procedures, evaluation of financial information through analysis of plausible relationships among financial and non-financial data. Wherever it is inconsistent, we investigate in detail. SA 315, we talk about analytical procedures at the planning stage. And SA 520, we talk about analytical at the substantive procedure stage and near the end of the audit, that is conclusion stage. That means analytical are to be followed throughout the audit. While performing analytical procedures on the current year financial information, ya to you can do some comparisons or you can check for certain relationships. Comparison of current year financial information can be done with the prior periods, or it can be done with similar industry information, or it can be done with the anticipated results, yani ke the budgets. Yes, relationship of financial information, you can check it with the non-financial information, or you can do some trend analysis or some ratio analysis. Then when you come to substantive, there is a competition going on between two. Detailed checking or analytical checking, detailed or analytical. First, you should see whether analytical can be done, because detail to can always be done. So what we discussed, factors to be considered while using substantive analytical procedures: suitability, reliability, expectation, and materiality. And a suitability, depending upon the effectiveness of controls, the RMM, the nature, the assertion, we decide whether it is suitable, the materiality of the item, whether it is suitable to perform analytical. Then the reliability of the data, the source of the data, the nature of the information, the controls over the preparation of the data, and the comparability of the data. Then are you able to build up an expectation to identify a misstatement? And what is the difference between expected value and actual value that is acceptable without further investigation? So that is nothing but materiality. Right. And analytical towards the end of the audit, okay, whatever is your understanding and whatever is your conclusion, whether these two are consistent, is why you perform analytical near the end of the audit. Next standard which we started with, SA 530, which is on audit sampling. Right, we saw a few definitions over there like population, then sampling risk. The risk that the sample may not represent the population. The risk that the auditor reaches an erroneous conclusion on account of the sample selected. The risk that the conclusion which the auditor has formed by checking the sample and the conclusion which he would have formed had he checked the entire population could be different is sampling risk. And two things happen because of sampling risk. Either your opinion may go wrong or it may lead to additional work. Inappropriate audit opinion, or it may lead to additional work. We saw for both, tests of control also and test of details also. Then after that we saw non-sampling risk, then stratification, subdivision of the population, then tolerable misstatement, a monetary amount set by the auditor about which he seeks to obtain an appropriate level of assurance that the actual misstatement in the population does not exceed the monetary amount set by the auditor. And the probability that aggregate of individually immaterial misstatements may exceed materiality. Right, so it says tolerable misstatement is nothing but the application of performance materiality as discussed in SA 320. It could be the same amount or it could be a lower amount. And then the last question which we did was steps in a sampling plan. OPC, we started with that, and I told you this question is R raised to 10, not asked so far. So first define the audit objective to which the sample relates. Then population, number of population items, sampling unit, sample selection method, sample parameters such as confidence level and accuracy, then sample size, then sample selection technique, draw the sample, evaluate the sample, check whether any adjustment to the original plan is needed, evaluate the changes, and then finally you need to formulate